media. We'll just let all the gears and cogs wind in as we go live to LinkedIn, to Facebook, to Twitter, to YouTube, and also onto our podcast as that's all happening. Simon, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well.
So Simon, just give yourself a quick introduction, please.
Hi, great. So, hello, everyone. I'm Simon Derrick. Some people know me as Denzel, and I am Head of Sustainability at Blue Skies.
And we've got a big new initiative launched that we're assisting Blue Skies and Simon launch today. Simon, drum roll, what is the new initiative called, please?
So it's written just behind you. It's called FRESHPPACT, the Fresh Produce Impact Hub. And it's a new initiative that we have very recently launched. And we're looking to work with different stakeholders across the whole industry to try and find solutions to the problem of plastics. So yeah, I can. Do you want me to go into a bit more detail?
Not just yet. So it's a hugely topical subject. And what I wanted to do before we bring in our three experts, because we've got three, I'm going to just say it, Simon, world leading experts in this sector, especially on a UK basis. Just want to give a bit more of a background for everyone who's dialed in either live or listening on to the podcast, because one thing I do find about the Blue Skies business, the amazing Blue Skies business, is how modest they are. And we interviewed Anthony Pyle, MBE founder. Simon, when was that? It was about 18 months ago, but it was one of the most watched interviews that we've done. And Blue Skies has been in existence for 25 years. If you want to get a better understanding as to Blue Skies, you need to listen to that interview with Anthony. As Anthony stated, they sort of set up Blue Skies as a social enterprise before social enterprises even happened. So with a site in the UK, site in Ghana, site in Benin, site in Egypt, site in South Africa, site in Brazil. Just the Ghanaian business is amazing, Simon, isn't it? That you're the largest private employer in Ghana with an ecosystem of some 40,000 people hanging off the business. And I'm really keen for Blue Skies to be promoted, not just as a commercial entity, but the good that they do. So let me just go through the notes about FRESHPPACT so we can just set this up properly, set up the foundation. So the hugely regarded Blue Skies business has teamed up with Waitrose and the University of Northampton Centre for Sustainable Business Practices to launch an industry research and development hub to find groundbreaking solutions to sustainability challenges with an initial focus on plastics. So again, Blue Skies doesn't have to do this, just constantly stepping up to the mark, looking to create this positive change in the sectors. The Fresh Produce Impact Hub, known as FRESHPPACT, will collaborate with retailers, manufacturers, and agribusinesses operating within food supply chains rooted in developing our emerging economies to identify shared high-priority social and environmental challenges. FRESHPPACT has been implemented by Blue Skies, as we know, and supported by Waitrose, which has been awarded a UKAid grant to develop the operating model and launch 3 challenge funds to find solutions to problem plastics found in agriculture, mulch, workwear, and packaging. And we want you all to join with Blue Skies on that basis. Simon, anything else to add to that, please?
No, I think you've said it all, Max. That's exactly what we're looking for. You know, we've set up this hub because we understand that we can't sort of find the solutions to these huge problems by ourselves. We need to work together with others. It's all about collaboration. We don't have a multi-million-pound R&D budget, so we're looking to help. We're looking for this help through this grant. We want to set up a co-funding model with this for this hub, and obviously to work with other stakeholders in the industry, other fresh produce companies, other retailers to identify, as you said, those shared challenges that we go and find the right solutions. And we're looking to particularly for solutions around packaging, agricultural mulch, and workwear, as you said, and looking to find out from all those different stakeholders out there, what should we be considering? What should we be looking out for in the solutions? What criteria should we be setting so that we can really set a really firm, detailed, and a clear brief to stand the best chance of finding those groundbreaking solutions that we're looking for.
Fantastic. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to bring in our 3 experts. So Jim, Caroline, Ian, if you could all come in. And just so you know what the agenda of this brief broadcast is going to be, we're just going to have a deep dive interview with each of our experts to get their view on what this sector needs to do and why we should hopefully endorse the likes of FRESHPPACT. And then at the end, we're going to have a Q&A session. So if you've got any questions for Simon or any of our experts, please feel free to put them in the question box or WhatsApp me or stick them on the live social feeds. So I'm just going to get everyone to just briefly introduce themselves. Jim, you first. Could you introduce yourself to the UK and to the world, please?
Yes, Max. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Jeffcoat. I'm director at Hurdletree Associates. My background is both in retail and on the supply side. So I started off in Asda in the late 80s, then moved into the supply base with Visa UK and Del Monte, and then slowly moved back into retail through IPL and then with Asda and then to Walmart latterly before setting up Hurdletree Associates.
Right. And Jim is known on a global basis on this technical aspect, so that's why we're very, very blessed to have got Jim. And we're going to lose Jim shortly after his interview because he's got off onto another international call, would you believe? Caroline, over to you, please. Could you introduce it? Not that you need introducing, Caroline, but could you introduce yourself and Leaf, please, to the world?
Sure, yes, and thank you. And so my name is Caroline Drummond. I'm the Chief Executive of Leaf, Linking Environment and Farming, an organisation that I've been running for the last 30 years since it started, very much about driving practical solutions for more sustainable agriculture, right through not only sort of on the ground with farmers, but also in the marketplace. So really proud that Blue Skies is one of our very first leaf mark growers as well. But that really clearly demonstrates, as was obviously the launch of FRESHPPACT as well, their commitment towards delivering more sustainable agriculture and finding solutions against a continually changing background of climate change and other political and physical challenges that we face as a farming sector.
Caroline, thank you. And we'll get into it when we do our brief interview, because we want a quick catch up with yourself as to Leaf, because he's had some amazing news with some of the alliances that you've got with some major retailers. So we want to find out where Leaf is going next and how the likes of Blue Skies and FRESHPPACT may be able to work with you, collaborate to create that success. So Caroline, thank you for being on. And Ian, over to you, Ian. Now we were joking in the green room that Ian claims he's in Yorkshire today. We're not too sure, but Ian, over to you to introduce yourself, please, to the UK and to the world.
Yes, definitely on the Pennines today, as you can see behind me with the beautiful grapes growing. So it is a true picture. So my background is packaging. I've been in packaging for 40 years, trained as a packaging technologist in the Co-op, that wonderful organisation. And it was then the biggest grower of vegetables. It had its own green grocery then in those days and 100 manufacturing factories. And I worked in most of them. I then went on to buying vegetables, would you believe? At the Co-op before I moved to Iceland and started the Iceland own label brand all those days back in 1984. Was there for 10 years and funny enough went back again when the MD brought me back in 2013 and I was due to retire, and it was all going well until sustainability came along, and then they wanted me to do loads more work, and here I am. I'm now working for several companies including Blue Sky, supporting them and many others, and I can't retire, it's impossible.
Excellent. Yeah. And Simon, what's so great to have the likes of Ian on and Jim and Caroline to have that diverse range of expertise for this broadcast to look to launch FRESHPPACT. So Simon, anything from you before we quickly dive into our interviews? No,
nothing more from me. I think we're really honoured to have such experts on this broadcast today, and yet really interested to sort of hear what they've got to say about what we need to be looking out for when looking for the solutions to these problems around plastics. Okay, but Simon, just to drive this particular nail home, the purpose of this broadcast, the purpose of you setting up FRESHPPACT is what? What do you need from us? What do you need from the audience, dialed in live or on record? What do you want from us, Simon? So phase one, so this is the phase we're in now. As I said, we're setting up this operating model to be able to launch some challenge funds in April. So this is when we kind of put out a call for solutions to the world to say, these are the problems, these are this is the kind of solutions that we're looking for. We want to really clearly define those challenge briefs. So what we're looking for from everyone on this call today, including our speakers, but also anyone that wants to leave a comment or go to our website, by the way, it's at FRESHPPACT with 2ps.org, is ideas and considerations that we need to bear in mind when we're setting the criteria. It might be technical considerations, it might be commercial considerations, it might be looking at kind of wider environmental and social impacts as well. So what do we need to be thinking about? We've got a workshop next week, and we've got several activities that enable us to develop these briefs. So really it's part of a consultation exercise in a sense. We just want to hear from you. We want to get a bit of a direction in terms of what we need to be considering.
Excellent. Simon, thank you. Simon, could you just turn off your video? Caroline, could you just turn off your video as we go live with Jim? So just cautious that Jim's got a hard stop and he needs to get onto his other international call because, as I said, he's so busy. So Jim, you spent a lot of time in retail and the supply base. And I do admire individuals like you who've got that understanding of retail and supply, because it's so unique for you and for the sector. Plastic, do you feel that there's too much plastic getting into customers' trolleys via fresh produce? Are we using too much plastic in fresh produce? Jim?
Yeah, I dare say you're looking for an answer that's a bit longer than just yes, Max. Yeah, I think if you look not only at the obvious part, which is the packaging that you see on the product, you look back through the whole supply chain and the use of packaging right the way through supply chain. You think about shrink wrapping on pallets. You go further back, Simon's already mentioned things like mulches, there's plastic tunnels, and also Simon, I think, mentioned as well, look at PPE in production areas, so things like plastic aprons and plastic gloves. So it is more than just the visible packaging that you see on the product. I would also say that yes, there is an obvious need to reduce the amount of packaging, but the one thing I think that we need to be really careful of is the law of unintended consequences kicking in.
And just help me in that respect. Can you give direct examples of that? What do you mean, please, Jim?
Yeah, well, as an illustration, when I was with IPL and Asda, I can't remember the exact year, it's something like 2007, 2008, one of their stores up in the Manchester area did a trial on I think it was for about 3 months, they trialed just selling loose produce. And the results of that trial, the summary of the results of the trial was that the quality perception of the product went shooting up, but unfortunately, so did the actual waste. The product waste went shooting up as well, and sales went shooting down. So, you know, we have to look at what the role of packaging is in relation to the product, and particularly in produce. You have the packaging is protecting the product not only from physical damage, but also from things like dehydration. And then when you take into account MAP, then there's the chance of things like bagged salads without MAP, then they wouldn't have a viable life to be able to sell in retail. And the example that's always trotted out is the good old overwrap on cucumbers. Yeah. You know, you look at what would happen to cucumber sales and cucumber life if that overwrap was to be taken off. But I think one of the things you know, that needs to be targeted on product is where plastic and packaging is just used for cosmetic reasons. Absolutely.
So Jim, on that basis, where do you see the biggest wins are going to be in the short to long term in reducing plastic in fresh produce?
Well, first of all, I think initiatives like FRESHPPACT, where we're getting very much a collaborative approach in the industry, is very much the way to go. I see with a lot of sustainability projects and initiatives that are out there, they tend to get very, let's say, academic, and a lot of research goes in and a lot of data is put in. And a number of different models come out onto the market. But the problem is, with a lot of these, they're setting the bar quite high for the vast majority of suppliers and supply chains to get over. And I very much think that a collaborative approach that FRESHPPACT is putting forward will make the whole project a lot more practical, and therefore will get much wider engagement. And I think that looking at the what is on the product and in the supply chain, it's a matter of almost a cost-benefit analysis. What is the cost in plastic in being applied to a product versus the benefit in either increasing sales or increasing product life and reducing things like food wastage? And I think one area that quite often gets overlooked is the inefficient use of plastic in the supply chain. So where you have, there in retail supply chains, there's a lot of packaging write-off. And this is caused by things where there are very specific packaging for individual products. And when, from a marketing viewpoint, that is changed, or when you come to an end of a season, then quite often a significant tonnage of packaging and plastic packaging gets written off. If there was a more generic use of plastics in the product range, and a more flexible approach to using packaging to minimize the write-offs, then I think there'd be a lot of saving in plastics in that area.
Jim, just stay there. Caroline, can you come in, please? So Jim, not trying to lead the witness, are you quite positive that the likes of the creation of FRESHPPACT is going to be beneficial to the sector, but we all need to collaborate to make it
absolutely. The initiatives like this, whether it's to do with plastics, whether it's to do with carbon, whether it's to do with water usage, water footprints, the more collaboration we can get across the industry, so the vast majority of the supply chains can get engaged, is hugely important, because there's no benefit if only 5% of the supply chain is engaged.
Absolutely. And one thing that I want to avoid, and it's one reason why we're keen to be aligned to Blue Skies and Simon with this, is that we've all sat in so many meetings over the years which you could nominate as being just but talking shops, and this is such an important subject that we need to see a difference, a change being happened, and hence why we've looked to call yourself, Caroline, and Ian on to look to not endorse, but just get your understanding as to why the likes of FRESHPPACT is so important to us. Jim, anything to just wrap up with from you before you go on your other international call?
I think this is a hugely exciting initiative, and I think initiatives like FRESHPPACT are exactly the way to go.
Excellent. Jim, thank you very much, and give our regards to the Chileans or whoever it is you're talking to this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Max. Thanks all.
Thank you, Jim. Caroline, come on, we're going to use this our little segment because we want to show off about Leaf. We spend all my time showing off about Blue Skies and now FRESHPPACT. Leaf, tell us let's start from the beginning, a little potted history. How was Leaf formed? Where is it today? Where is it going in the future? Why we should hold your hand and all of your colleagues' hands, figuratively?
So it started in June 91, part of a pan-European network, and very much to reposition agriculture in the minds of the general public, but framed around the fact that the public aren't going to obviously support farming and farmers and growers unless they understand that actually there's good farming systems to support. So kind of through the years and to fast track where we are now, over that time, we've moved from not only having demonstration farms to engage and drive the peer-to-peer learning. And that's really important. And this initiative as well, it's to scale up and to really accelerate the change that's needed around plastics and around the increased uptake of sustainability. It needs to be through collaboration. And then obviously Leafmark has been a very strong driver of that. Initially, Waitrose there were many other retailers sitting around the table, many who are kind of rest in peace as retailers, originally back in 1999. To where we are now. So Waitrose have been hugely committed, both in the UK and indeed on a global basis. But in September last year, Tesco have taken their decision that actually they want to see all their fresh produce, UK by the end of this year and global by the end of 2024 as Leafmark certified. So it's a big driver. And so we're very excited. We are a global standard. We build on Red Tractor in the UK and Global Gap as a core standard for food safety on a global basis. And now we are embarking on that wonderful and exciting journey. But it is the sort of the ambassadors and those those real highlight, the sort of the lighthouse businesses like Blue Skies that are so inspiring for other businesses to really support the driving of the change.
And I can't emphasize enough, there's just some people in the world that do good, and everyone, Caroline and her colleagues are one of those sets of people, whether it be everything that they've accomplished on a retail side. But in the UK, we have this great thing called Leaf Open Sunday, and I've got all my farming mates are involved with it, and they love it. Caroline, just sell Leaf Open Sunday for us, please.
Yes, so this all started from obviously things like foot and mouth, where the industry was closed off, and so we did a lot of communication training for farmers because we have a very complicated language in agriculture, and sometimes it's really important to try and condense that down, and that's what you're brilliant at doing that, Max. And from that speak out training we did with farmers, one of our farmers came back, Ian Piggott, from doing his Nuffield, and said, oh, why don't you try this Open Farm Sunday approach? And we started off, actually the first year, I think we had just over 200 farms. Now we regularly get around 400 farms opening up to welcome the public. There's about 10,000 people in the industry helping out. And each year we've been welcoming over 250,000 people out onto farms. So it's been really exciting, and not to be outdone, obviously, by COVID. We've had online farm visits as well, so people get a little bit more behind the scenes as well. Yeah. And it's kind of the ultimate show and tell, because as an industry we've got a lot to be proud of, and we've even had farms overseas taking part as well, which has been great, because not only do we want to encourage people to have a lifelong love of farming and nature and the environment, but we want to encourage new blood into the industry as well.
Well said. I'm just going to give you quickly my direct example. One of my best buddies has a 500-acre apple farm down in Somerset. When you walk in his front door, I was very blessed to go down there for his son's 18th birthday party. And as everyone came in, he introduced the farm as being LEAF certified, and also a host of LEAF Open Farm Sunday. And the open farm events that they've run on that farm have created so many positive spin-offs, so that they have urban schools coming out during the summer on the back of one of the teachers coming on one of the original Open Farm Sundays. And Brilliant. All of the villages now connect with the farm and vice versa. And it was because the catalyst of Caroline and Leaf and the Open Farm Sunday. So if you're not aware of it, dial it up and have a look. Right, Caroline, we must stop the editorial, because I can talk about Leaf all day. Oh, yes. FRESHPPACT. Do you think it's going to work?
I do, and I think it's a jolly good idea. I think they've started with the right topic. Obviously, David Attenborough was, the big push for plastics. It's still high in the agenda for consumers. There's something like 12.5 million tons of plastic used within agriculture, just on the growing perspective. And what is really scary is that we all eat about 5 grams of plastic a week. That's the equivalent of eating a credit card a week. So if you start looking at, right, where's that coming from? Some of that is obviously through water, through seafood and things like that. But actually, we use plastic within the encapsulation of seeds in some instances and things like that. So the waste associated and the challenge associated with plastic in agriculture is a big one. We're obviously very excited by this. In fact, we do a series of things called Simply Sustainable: soil, biodiversity, biosecurity, integrated pest management. And we've got a new one that'll be coming out in a few months' time on plastics specifically. And it is all down. I liked, hearing what Jim was just saying a few minutes ago. It's, don't make it too academic, make sure that, we're collaborating. But for us, and make it grounded and practical. So it is from a farming point of view, rather than potentially the pack house, but the principles are the same. Where am I using plastic? Could I use it better? Do I need to use it at all? Are there alternatives? What are the consequences of alternatives? And things like that are ultimately really critical in this. And, the smart thing about technology, as Simon's alluded to, is there is a huge heap of understanding how we use plants better to protect plants through plastic alternatives and things like that.
And Caroline, do you think it's possible to break down the fiefdoms, the rivalries, the competition that exists within the supply chain and the retail side to all come together to support the likes of FRESHPPACT and also Leaf. You're very commercially savvy, you're very retail savvy. Is there a magic dust that we can break down those barriers to get everyone to collaborate to make this a success, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many working examples, and I think the good thing is it's having that, the non-competitive edge, which is basically we've got to reduce the amount of plastics that we are using. We've got to stop digging fossil fuel out of the ground. And the sort of the principle, it's an oil-based plastic that is the biggest of our challenges. And so, I think all retailers, all processors, and indeed, all farmers recognise that is the challenge, and it's trying to overcome it. And it's a bit like sort of, well, do we then move into glass? Obviously, glass is not going to be a good wrap for cucumbers unless pickled. But it's then you have weight or breakages or health risks. So it's always thinking about, how do we look in this as a holistic approach, and how do we really manage it effectively?
Yeah, well said, Caroline. Ian, can you come in? I've got to quote someone. I'm going to be a bit rude. So Tim O'Malley, CEO of Nationwide Produce, brilliant business, £150 million turnover. Caroline, stay in. I haven't finished with you yet. £150 million turnover. And when we had him on a recent broadcast, he said, Max, we're in our zeitgeist after the back of COVID. Everyone wants to buy fresh produce because they want to eat well, they want to be well. We're really sexy at the moment, Max. We've really got to do better in the respect of getting more margin out of the retailers. It's a conversation for another time. But we've also got to do better sustainably. So I think everyone is fully aware that we've got to do it. But I suppose it's just creating the solutions that are going to be cost effective and are going to be able to be implemented within our supply chain. So Caroline, again, you're positive that the likes of FRESHPPACT, if we endorse it, if we collaborate with it, is a good route to go. Caroline.
Yes, oh no, definitely. And I think, hearing Simon describe it as well, it's recognizing that there are many different players within the whole solution, and it's trying to kind of work out who's best placed. Any good collaboration is understanding who's best placed to lead on a particular issue, who's best placed to help support that, and how can you get that common messaging. And when you look at the challenge against climate change in particular, we've got to do this fast, we've got to do it at scale, and so it has to be through collaboration. Yeah,
and again, there's a marketing term that I hear often: why care and share? We all care about the sector, we all love this sector, and we need to share. We need to share this change that we're all looking to create, whether it be through Leaf or whether it be through FRESHPPACT. We've got to collaborate and share. Caroline, thank you. We'll bring you back in for the Q&A. Ian, I'm going to start off with a really interesting one for you, if it's okay. Could you predict, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, that there would be this demand, this revolution towards changing plastic within fresh produce? Could you already see that 10, 20 years ago?
Definitely not. It's interesting, isn't it? Because 40 years ago, I was one of these guys who was putting the plastics in, the fossil fuel in, taking away cellulose and glassine and paper, all those things we had 40 years ago. I was putting them in. 40 years later, I'm taking them all out. And, don't forget, that is truly circular. So it's interesting how we talk about the circular economy and plastics and everything else, but it's evolving all the time. Everything's evolving all the time. Don't forget, we haven't even mentioned France yet, and the ban in France. They've actually banned every piece of plastic packaging under 1.5 kilos. We haven't done that in the UK yet, and it's coming to Spain in 18 months' time, no, a year's time. Yeah. So, there's some initiatives kicked off, but no, 20 years ago, definitely not, Max.
Okay. And there's coming up with all my favorite terminologies today. There's so much profitability held up within the supply chain of fresh produce. Is this just going to be, I remember sitting, it must be 4 years ago, with a veg supplier up in my neck of the woods where I am in East Anglia, and he had a discounter who wanted them to adopt wooden trays for putting parsnips in, and it looked fantastic, but it put the price up for the supplier by I think it was 4 or 5 times, and the discounter wasn't going to pay that. The discounter, if anything, they wanted even cheaper product because they were going to sell more. Just on the nuts and bolts cost element of it, I suppose it's a bit like the conjuring of electric cars as to when's the right point to swap over from a combustion to an electric car? When's the right point to swap over from packaging, like the cucumber example that we've used a number of times before, to going loose? Can you see that there is going to be a right time? And the technology is going to come along to be beneficial for the sector, so the sector can make money? Is that timing coming along?
Max, I'm doing this every day. I'm doing this every day across all products, from pasta to produce. So wow. It's something we're working with every retailer. I'm still doing work for 2 retailers and brands as well. So we're doing it every day. So there's a massive, we've got another issue now. We've got another issue because of all the moves that we've been making. Because the first thing you've got to do is make sure, well, take the packaging out. Do you need the packaging in the first instance? That's the first thing. The second thing is, can you make that recyclable? Because we've got an infrastructure in our, at the curbside, going back to our collection systems and being able to reuse it again as something else. So recycling is absolutely critical in this. So the first thing you do is get it recycled. The next thing is, can it be recycled with a percentage of recyclable plastic in it? Because that's a tax that's coming along in a month's time, only a month's time.
Wow.
And then the next is, can you go to alternative materials like paper, like board, like algae, like seaweed, all these materials I'm working on, which are coming along to replace plastics. Because it's in my blood now to do the best thing for packaging, to make sure we get the right materials around the right product. Yeah. But we've still got protection to go for. We're never going to compromise food safety. That's never going to happen. People still want shelf life, amazingly. People want still shelf life because there's distribution, there's online. And what's happened with all the materials we're looking at is, with online coming, with COVID coming, is there's not enough paper and board to go around.
Yeah.
So even though they've planted 3 trees for everyone in the last 20 years, we still haven't got enough board. So there's some very interesting things going on. And when we start talking about, and it's bound to come up, biodegradables and compostables, they're currently on a lot of retailers' red list. Why is that?
Yeah,
it is because actually it makes a lot of sense to put compostables around vegetables. It makes a lot of sense. But you know what? We can't right now because they're on a red list. Why they're on a red list? Because we've no infrastructure for collecting these things at curbside, and there's no infrastructure at our councils to industrial compost. 1 or 2 people have got them, but generally we haven't got that curbside collection. So I'm involved in every little nitty-gritty of making sure those materials are right, the price is right, the communication about those materials is right, the shelf life's right, the price is right, and the availability. So there's one hell of a lot to go, and that's without looking at the runnability in your farms, your factories, because you still want to run them at the same speed.
Yep. So here goes the big one. Why do we need FRESHPPACT?
So there's one hell of a lot of gaps still, an awful lot of gaps for FRESHPPACT to get involved with. Compostables is just one I've picked on, because if we could get the retailers to have their own collection of, compostable materials, biomaterials, and then put them through the chain and go back into either anaerobic digestion and back onto the soil, that sort of makes a lot of sense if we could do that. So things like FRESHPPACT can have a look at that. They can absolutely make sure that they join all those dots up to make that infrastructure work, because that infrastructure isn't there at the moment. But I'm doing lots of testing in this area on an individual basis. So as a team, as a collaboration, a lot of people will have some answers towards this. Looks like Max is frozen.
Sorry, we just slightly lost you. I think Russia came online there, just tweet with our internet, but you're back in the room. So with the likes of FRESHPPACT, it's great that Blue Skies and the likes of your involvement with Blue Skies with it. Is it not a bit frustrating that the packaging industry hasn't already created solutions around this? Why haven't solutions already been created? From a naivety from myself, please.
Okay, they have. Honestly, can I assure you, there's one hell of a lot going on. They're changing the materials so quickly. Where we used to have 2 or 3 materials in a laminate to try and do protection. We've now built those into monomers or one material that can be recycled with barriers in for moisture and all those things. So there's a whole host of new materials that's come along that we're now using for produce, and it's working really, really well, I'm pleased to say. So the packaging industry has responded, including the plastic industry, because when we first launched no plastic in, even in Iceland, the plastic industry was in denial. They have reacted, they have moved on, they have brought new materials to market, and we've got a lot more coming. However, that's still fossil fuel. The other materials that we're going for, the algae, the seaweeds, the waste from mushrooms, the waste from banana skins, the waste from orange pith, all these things that we're all now investigating are going to come along, but they're not ready yet, some of these. So I would say the packaging industry has reacted, took a bit of kicking, but it's reacted really well.
Okay, and then using this car analogy, that the problem with electric cars is the battery life and the amount of energy that goes into actually making them. But there's so much development going on in that area that they think within 5-10 years time there'll be a solution created. Is there a direct correlation there with fresh produce and packaging? That would you be confident with the likes of FRESHPPACT and all the other innovation that's going on, that there will be a solution to this packaging issue in the medium to the long term?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, some of those solutions are here today. There's just a cost to them. Yeah, some are not here and they're coming, and a lot of development being worked. A lot of people talk about LCA's life cycle analysis, and a lot of the life cycle analysis is going on with these packaging formats to make sure they're absolutely viable. So there will be the choice there. We're in a bit difficulty at the minute because we have got some shortage of materials around the world, and I am working on projects around the world. We have got some shortages. Labels is the latest one we've got an issue with. But the interesting thing is they are coming, and they're coming fast. And a lot of the things that the retailers are already doing is working towards that in a rapid way. And this collaboration, that we're talking about now is going to work to get that quicker, to move those on quicker.
Yeah. Okay. And then just to wrap up with yourself, Ian, I've got a couple of younger individuals who are British, but they're setting up a business in West Africa to grow vegetables to export back into the UK and Europe. What would your advice be on the packaging front, that they're just starting out? If you were looking to advise them, actually, I should just introduce you anyway. I'll do that after this behind the scenes. But what would your advice be as to how they should start thinking now to creating this packaging solution, please?
Well, the beauty is there's a lot of options available to you. And if you don't want fossil fuel, you don't have to go down the fossil fuel route. That was not available 5 years ago. So, there are lots of options available, but it will depend on how you're wrapping them, of course. It will depend if you need a modified atmospheric packaging for it. There's a lot of things that go into that thinking, but I'm pleased to say there's a lot available today that's going to give you the way to market.
Yeah. And Ian, there's always a positive from a negative, isn't there? With that direct example, for them to be able to approach potential customers and indicate that they've got a positive solution to the packaging element, they might get picked up quicker, and they might be able to get more margin because of that difference that they can give to that retailer, that customer, as to what lands in the shelf or what lands on a restaurant plate. Do you think?
Yeah, but as you say, if there's anything in you today that cares about the world that we're in, we want to make sure that these are really good solutions that are going to last a long time, and we're not going to use fossil fuel, and we're not going to waste things, and we're not going to have food waste. There's so many things that we're all trying to do. We're not going to use water as much. We're not going to use carbon. All these things come into factor that gives you, something to go on all these products, and that's what I'm helping people do, make those decisions.
Yeah. Well done. Caroline, Simon, can you come in? And just to endorse the fact, everyone, that we always forget that fresh produce we're growing healthy food, we're growing sunshine. It does the consumer so much good with exercise and to eat fresh produce in comparison to some of the high laden fat and gross salt and gross foods that are heavily branded and heavily marketed and make heavy margin for those for those food companies, whilst the fresh produce sector does good. Simon, any initial comments after we've just heard from Jim, Caroline and Ian, please?
Well, just other than there's some really good points that have been made by Jim, Caroline and Ian. So I've written down a big long list of all the different points made, whether from Jim, where he was making good points about it not being too academic, that we don't set the bar too high about cost benefit analysis. Some really, really good points there. And some of the facts and figures that Caroline talked about in terms of the 12.5 million tons of plastic in agriculture. I mean, that's shocking. And looking at what we need to be paying attention to when looking for solutions, looking at the impact in water, in soil, in encapsulation of seeds, as Caroline says, and Ian making some really good points about recycling infrastructure. A lot of these, and actually one thing that really resonated with me that Ian said that I think is relevant to FRESHPPACT is the fact that a lot of the solutions are already out there, or are just on the verge of being sort of ready to be commercialized, and they're the kind of ideas and solutions that we're interested in to an extent, because it's about joining the dots. There's so many, we know what the challenge is, and there's so many others like us that have got the same challenge. How do we join the dots to find out where the solutions are that we just don't know about? I mean, there might be somebody just next door to me now who's got the answer right up their sleeves, but how do we join those dots? And I'd be interested to find out from Caroline, Ian, who else should we be talking to? Because that's going to be key to this in terms of collaboration.
Simon, thank you. Caroline, who else should Blue Skies be talking to in reference to FRESHPPACT, please?
Well, I mean, obviously the retailers are critical. I think also actually the FAO and United Nations are pretty key in this. Many of the solutions, as you say, are probably out there. There are also some situations that are even worse. And, when you look at some of the really scary piles of plastic in some countries, you sort of look in some of the sort of the plastic picking that goes on in India and things like that, it is devastating. It's devastating for them. It's devastating, obviously, for the planet and consequently everybody else. So I guess I would imagine the FAO would be a good one. Other retailers, of course, which I know you would be thinking of anyway. Yeah,
well done, Caroline, because we mustn't forget that last year was the International Year of Fruit and Vegetables, as hosted by the United Nations, and I think they're doing a wrap-up broadcast either, it might even be today or early next week. So Simon, put that on your list if you need contacts for the United Nations or the FAO. We've had a number of their speakers on this end. Well done, Caroline. So if you go from the top and influence the top, we can then influence the it all the way down. But then again, I suppose it's the consumer, isn't it, everyone? That if we can create societal change for the consumer not wanting to buy or being very specific as to what fresh produce they buy, because they've been educated as to the packaging that's on it, that's going to help. Ian, what do you think with your retail background? Do you think we can influence the consumer to create that change as well as the retailer or political organisations? Ian, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely we can. The interesting thing is there's been quite a lot of surveys recently about that people will pay more money for cleaner and more sustainable products. The reality is somewhat different, because we're all under a squeeze and we've got inflation and all these other things. So that's been diluted. I had exactly the same experience on produce that we had earlier on, where sales went down 30% when I got rid of all the plastics on it. So, there are lessons to be learned, but the consumer tells you things. So it's like everything, you can't communicate enough with them. And as a retailer, I know that. And as a person now, I even, go around a lot of people to ask how they're doing. I've just been to a refill station for Waitrose, actually, in Cheltenham to see how the refill station was working, because that's a really good idea. And the more we refill, the better it is. So not everything can work that way, but every piece of plastic we get rid of, every piece of packaging actually we get rid of is a good thing, right? Yeah. So, all these little things add up to big solutions. And it's amazing how they all come together. This just going alone on this, I mean, I'm doing a lot of university lecturing, to youngsters, because I'll be in my grave. These people are our future. So I'm saying to them, you've got to come up with the goods of the future to make sure, and talking to them, I would say, is invaluable to this, because the NPD people, the new product development people coming through on ideas of what the next produce things, what the next mix of fruit is, etc. They're the people who need the packaging to go around that to make sure we've got a sustainable future. So we've got to train into the youngsters. So I'm going to add university and new NPD people into this. I'm also going to add in the recyclers, because we need to talk to them, because we've got to turn this bad stuff into good stuff. And I'm also going to talk to about, which I know Simon's well aware of, the packaging suppliers. And it won't be the existing packaging suppliers. It will be new ones. Some of them are startups doing the most crazy things. But these crazy things are the things we need.
Yeah, well said. Well, so your list is getting ever longer. Caroline, I've just had a WhatsApp in. Caroline, what's your view of government? Should we be having government involved to tax plastics to create that change?
Potentially, but it gets very complicated when you start looking at taxes, because I think you have to sectors, as Ian has so wonderfully articulated, the different ranges of plastics, and you then become in this situation where you don't know what you're taxing, and it can be very difficult. And the real strength for driving fast across so many countries is ultimately going to be around ensuring that we collaborate and come up with practical solutions that kind of offer, 15 years ago, we wouldn't have had any packaging at all on cucumbers. During COVID, there probably would have been a real challenge of also selling cucumbers, because people think, oh gosh, we've got diseases that we're touching, somebody else has touched this. So, there are huge complexities in this. So the more we can get practical solutions that actually work, the better it is. And I think it's not so much taxing is actually providing incentives and enabling legislation to support the right solutions, rather than necessarily kind of always taxing the negative solutions. Probably very controversial.
Well done, Caroline. And I'm going to keep on a roll with you, because you're picking up all the political questions. National Food Strategy. Does Caroline know whether the National Food Strategy had any elements of sustainable packaging involved in it? Can you remember?
I can't remember, but food waste was certainly addressed. So I would imagine from that point of view it is. I know that there's going to be a response from governments at the end of April. I will certainly, I'm speaking at a conference then, so I'll be rereading it, and I'll find out again then. But waste, of course, is the biggie.
Well, because it's the oddity, wasn't it, of COP26? Who remembers Glasgow COP26? That there was no element of food on any of the major agendas, and you look at the amount, as we discussed, the amount of food and the associated packaging that goes along with that. But I think everyone highlighted that within the sector, that there was nothing on that. But we're talking about FRESHPPACT and what Blue Sky is looking to create, and the positive difference that Leaf is looking to create anyway. So we just need to continue with that momentum. So Ian, just coming back to yourself. So with you turned gamekeeper turned poacher turned gamekeeper. I always get it the wrong way around. So you're positive with what you're seeing with the changes coming through from the packaging sector, with the changes that have been influenced by the likes of Leaf and the new introduction of FRESHPPACT, that you can see a positive future, but we need to make some changes along the way?
Of course, yeah. And there's one other burning one I didn't mention in that little lot, is that, do we need packaging really? Do we really need it? That's the first question you ask. And the other thing is, there's coatings coming along. Yes. We've already seen coatings going on to avocados, going on to cucumbers, going on to other things, which do preserve the product, natural, no nasties in it.
Yep.
We have seen laser printing going onto the cucumber, onto the avocado, so you don't need a label. So these are the different thinking that's coming along. So no label, no packaging, but you still get the shelf life. Wow.
Yep.
So this is where it's going. This is the exciting bits which you've got to get involved with on this. That's the first thing that came to me after I was finished on my last spiel. So as you can tell, I'm rather passionate about this. The next thing is there is so much more to go at with every supplier. because they're only scratching the surface right now. So I am very confident, you know, if we talk to the academics, if we talk to the science labs, if we talk to the farmers, if we talk to the anaerobic digestion makers, that you know, for me, I went to this farm. I'll tell you this story because it's really important. I went to this farm and I said, why can I not put all my compost material and all this packaging into the anaerobic digester and just heat your farm up, or put it on the file on the soil? Yeah. And he said, oh, there's a few issues with that, and here they are. But you know what? They're not. We can solve them. We can solve them. And this sort of thing, by looking at every aspect of the issue, and that's just one example, I can give you lots more. Yeah. There are lots of people coming together now to solve these issues. And I think I'm pleased to say that this initiative is just going to really throw a lot of fire, you know, oil on the fire to make sure this burns quicker, because I am really confident that by one or two people talking to each other, there are solutions out there.
Ian just had a WhatsApp. We love Ian's passion. He's brilliant. Well done, Ian. One for Denzel, for Simon. Simon, we're really keen to be involved with FRESHPPACT. What does success look like for you for FRESHPPACT in 5 years' time?
I think, well, firstly, just going on what Ian was just saying, it is really exciting, this space in terms of the solutions that are out there. And I think we can't wait to get started, you know, from April with these calls for proposals when we go out and go and find them. So finding those solutions is certainly what success looks like. But impact, of course, it's what we're calling the Fresh Produce Impact Hub, is what we're after. So whether it's plastics mitigation in terms of X tons of plastics saved, or looking at the impact in terms of our carbon footprint, because it's all related, you know, the impact on biodiversity, you know, these are all things that we're looking for. We're obviously looking for a steer in terms of which aspects we should be taking into account when putting together these challenge briefs. So, you know, of course, health and safety, biodiversity, carbon footprint, as well as plastics mitigation are all things that we need to be taking into account. So having those impacts are what we're after in terms of success.
Fantastic. Caroline, give us your expertise. You've created the success that Leaf is today, and there's yet more to come, as we all know. But what could you tell the Blue Skies team, FRESHPPACT, and all those people that want to collaborate with it? What have we all got to do from your learnings to make sure that FRESHPPACT is successful, please?
I guess, I mean, surround yourself by positive, inspiring and intelligent people. You know, we do that both within the team and those people we work with. As you know, you say, you listen to the passion of Ian, the passion of Simon, and indeed, you know, when you talk to the farmers that we work with, they are committed to change, and they don't say, yeah, we've sorted this. They're the ones who say, yeah, how do we make it better? And I think that's the real success has been, well, I mean, you know this, Denzel, in terms of people at the end of the day, and they are what make it happen. And the passion of people who want to come up with solutions that are inclusive, are kind of achievable, practical, and are dynamic, are absolutely key.
Excellent. Okay, so we're just coming to the witching hour. So it'd be good to just get a summary from all of you as to where you think this area is going, and again to endorse this fact as to why we should be aligned to FRESHPPACT. Ian, over to you. Where would you like? What does success look like for you, and why should we all be involved with FRESHPPACT, please?
Several reasons. One is to get all those experts and that passion coming through, you know, through those experts to solve some of the issues we've got. We haven't got all the answers yet. Don't be frightened of failure. You know, failure is really important, you know, but just fail quick, because not everything you test is going to work for shelf life, or it may be price, or it may be distribution, or it may be for a retailer. But you've got to, the retailer's never going to knock you, or nobody's ever going to knock you for ideas. Yeah. So let's fail quickly, but you will fail. I mean, I've had some great examples. Cheese is one of them, where, you know, I've been working really hard on cheese, which has got some of the nastiest plastics around it you've ever seen in your life. And you've got to clean it up, and I have cleaned it up. So when I first went into it, was it going to happen? No, it wasn't going to take me 10 years. It took me 2. Wow. So, you know, there are ways to get over these things if people come together and are committed to making it happen, because, you know, you don't want too many balls and chains behind you. You need to be going forward. So I am really confident the solutions are there. I'm really confident there's more coming. You're going to have more choices, but like everything, does it do the shelf life? Does it do the runnability on the machines? Will it be reused again, please, or recycled or downcycled at worst? What we don't want it to do is go in any landfill, and we don't want to send it to Turkey. We mustn't do that.
Caroline?
Again, I mean, good luck. I think, you know, you've got all the right ingredients, and as Ian has said, you know, don't be frightened of failure, because sometimes, yes, you sort of everything can go flat, but actually it's the passion and the belief. And you know, I know what blue skies are like, and one thing for certain is a huge amount of passion and capability, and, you know, a wonderful end product. So those are the right ingredients for making something like this work effectively.
Excellent. And Caroline, quickly, advert for Leaf. How do we find out about Leaf? How do we find out more about Leaf?
Please do go onto our website, leaf.eco. We've just updated the eco being for economic as well as the environment, ecology. So yeah, find out, visit a leaf demonstration farm, engage with some of our leaf mark growers, and get involved. Thank you very much, Max.
Excellent. Simon, just wrap up for us. How do we find out more about FRESHPPACT, please?
If you go to www.freshppact.org, then you can go there and find out more about it. You can register your interest if you want to take part and participate in some way, or stay in touch with what's developing, the developments and some of the solutions that we're finding, or any breakthroughs. Do register there, and we'll keep you up to date. And we're exploring various different ways to allow people to participate, whether that's being part of the consortium that we're building, or as associate members. We're really key to, as I say, join those dots and get the right people involved, and to ensure that we are sharing the findings with the wider industry, because this, you know, the FRESHPPACT isn't for blue skies. It's for everyone. It's for the whole industry, because you asked before about, you know, success. What would make success? Of course, it's having an impact, but in order to have an impact, it needs to be something which can be widely adopted and scaled across up across the whole industry, and multiple industries as well. That's what we want to achieve.
Well done to everyone. Let's join up with FRESHPPACT and create that change. A big thank you to Jim, to Caroline, and to Ian. Ian, we've just had a message in. There's a number of ladies from a very large grower organisation who've been watching, and they've stated that, Ian, if that actually is your home, will you marry them?
I don't think my wife will be very pleased about that, will she?
Oh, that's just details. Everyone, thank you very much for your time. We'll put all the links to FRESHPPACT, to Leaf, and also if you want to engage with Ian, he's obviously fantastic and knows what he knows within that sector. So if you can either look out for him on the likes of LinkedIn, or come to me direct, and we'll make a formal introduction to you. Caroline, thank you. Ian, thank you. Simon, thank you. And Jim from afar, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.